right, thank you. Before we get started tonight, I just wanted to talk a little bit. I'm pretty sure everybody here probably knows by now, but we lost our chairman of the town board, Frank Sauter, on Monday. And Frank was a very good man that cared very deeply about this town and all of the people in the town. So I'd just like to have a moment of silence for Frank, please. Thank you. Let's call the meeting to order. Bear with me, first time doing this, Frank usually handles this. Okay, call to order the Town of Palmyra Town Board special elector meeting to review the 2026 budget presentation and public hearing, followed by special town elector meeting, which was followed then potentially by a special town board meeting Thursday, November 13, 2025, 6 p.m. PALMYRA-EAGLE High School Community Center, 123 Burr Street, Palmyra, Wisconsin. Certification of compliance with open meeting laws.
Yes, the agendas were properly noticed.
Okay, everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who came out tonight. It's great to see such interest and involvement in our town residents, so thank you very much for participating. As I said a few minutes ago, if you do want to speak, public comment, please sign up. We can pass it around, but you do need to sign up for that. We will take, if you don't sign up, we will take questions. Please let Josh get through the presentation before anybody raises their hands or has any questions. Be glad to, and please, as you go through whatever slide, assuming there's a number or something on the slide, please jot down or remember the slide number that your question goes to, because that'll save time and make it a lot easier if you can flip right to that instead of searching for it. So please try to remember the slide that you've got questions on. Similar to the last 2 years, we're going to begin with the public hearing with presentation, the board's presentation that reviews and summarizes the year-to-date 2025 budget and the proposed budget for 2026. After the presentation, attendees will be allowed to speak and ask, electors will be allowed to speak and ask questions. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can. If we don't know the answers, we'll write them down. Michelle will write them down and we'll get answers back to you. We may not know all of them. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak, and we'll keep track of that because I'm sure everybody doesn't want to be here all night long. So 3 minutes per person. When you speak, state your name, address, including city, town, village. I'm assuming that's going to be Palmyra for everybody that speaks because that's what we're asking electors. Make sure I get everything right. Please, you received your ballots, a green ballot and a blue ballot. The first, do not fill them out yet. Well, you can fill them out. Do not turn, if you want to, do not turn them in. Turn them in before we officially ask for the ballots to be open. They will not be counted. So if you fill it out and leave, it won't, before we go to the ballot, it will not be counted. We have to be present to be able to vote. We'll do the green one first. Depending on the outcome of that, we'll go to the second one. Again, you can't turn this one in with the green one. If you do, it won't be counted. It's a totally separate ballot. So we appreciate if everybody follows procedure on that. If you have any questions, please ask. Anybody at the table can answer questions. Anybody here, if you raise your hand. Did I get that right? Okay. Then we'll move on to agenda item number 1. Public hearing regarding proposed 2026 Town of Palmyra budget. Notice is hereby given that on Thursday, November 13th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at the PALMYRA-EAGLE High School Community Center, 123 Burr, Palmyra, Wisconsin, Burr Street, Palmyra, Wisconsin, 53156, that a public hearing on the 2026 proposed budget for the Town of Palmyra in Jefferson County will be held. The proposed budget is available for inspection at the 3 official posting sites on the Town of Palmyra website, townofpalmyra.wisconsin.com, or by contacting our town clerk. So I just have to read this, or by email at clerk@townofpalmyra.wisconsin.wi.gov. Again, please hold your questions until after the presentation.
So, very similar to the last 2 years' presentation. I'm going to go over essentially what your tax bills look like, review, like Rob said, our 2025 budget projections, as well as our proposed budget for 2026. We'll go through the steps of the actual levy and budget approval process. And then at the end of this, attendees will have the opportunity to raise their hand, make a statement, ask questions if you have them. Starting things off, the property tax bill in the town of Palmyra. Similar story to the last 100 years. Is broken out between your municipality, which in this case is the town of Palmyra, your county tax, Jefferson County, the school district, for most folks is PALMYRA-EAGLE School District, your VOTEC school, Waukesha County, and then some people that live in the town are part of a special taxing jurisdiction or Blue Spring Lake District. So your entire tax bill, the little smallness, we'll get to a bigger version of it, but the blue highlighted sections on this screen are the ones that the town board and this meeting is about here tonight. The town of Palmyra tax, each one of your tax bills shows not only where you live, the parcel identification number, the taxes from the prior year, as well as the taxes for the current tax year. So it's a little goofy. This year we are talking about the 2025 taxes to be collected in 2026. So it's the taxes for this year, even though it's for the budget of next year. We're going to focus specifically on the town of Palmyra tax amount. How do we get there? Tax levies, levy limits, and mill rates. What are they? The tax levy is the overall amount of revenue that the town of Palmyra can collect from property owners within its taxing jurisdiction. It is the revenue stream from property tax. The levy limit is the maximum amount that the town board can request or put on property taxes that levies individual amounts for individual properties based off the individual valuations. In a situation like tonight, or last year, or the year before that, or the year before that, the town board is again asking to exceed the levy limit for this year. We have to ask the residents and the electors for the exceedance amount. There is a cap that the Department of Revenue sets annually. We can go to that if we're asking for more tax revenue than what the levy limit worksheet allows. That's why all 80-some people are here tonight. After the levy itself is set, the number for the taxes, the mill rate then gets broken out and is how your individual property taxes are calculated. It literally is the amount of valuation of the town as a total divided by the levy itself. It's a numeric number. It gets multiplied to come up with your per $1,000 value of property. Everybody's is pretty much different. The town's requirement is to prepare a budget annually and adopt the budget. The state, again, provides the town with a tax levy worksheet that includes things like expenses, other revenue streams, debt service, and it sets that allowable maximum levy limit. I already mentioned this. If the town board requests an exceedance, it must receive approval via a resolution passed by the town electors. That, again, is the green ballot. To prepare for the green ballot, the town had to pass a resolution to formalize the numbers that are required in that resolution by the DOR and by state statute. So once that portion is figured out and we adopt a tax levy, then the town board has a large portion of its revenue stream figured out and then adopts an actual operation budget for the next year. Going into 2026, goals that we had through probably 10 or 12 different workshops to draft the budget was to allocate funding to keep the level of services that everyone in the room has been accustomed to at that level into the next year. We also wanted to continue to designate funding for emergency management purposes. Regarding road projects, there's one thing included in this budget at this point in time for 2026, and that is the replacement of a failed culvert that is half owned by the town of Cold Spring, half owned by the town of Palmyra on Piper Road. We wanted to provide funding to remove existing problem trees from within the right-of-ways. We've submitted grant applications for potential road projects. Two of them actually. Zion Road was one of them from Pine Drive north to CI. The other one that we applied for was Piper Road from Highway 59 to the town limit. At this point in time, our Zion Road project has been ranked second out of the county that went to the Wisconsin DOT. The decision of funding has not been decided yet. If we are awarded that grant, that state and municipal financial agreement would come out about July of 2026, with the potential for the town to construct after that point. Given the timing, it's likely to be a 2027 project or beyond. Lastly, continue to provide electors with information to understand the difference of funding through tax roll or funding through debt service. This was on our website. It is a budget summary that most of you also have copies of. There's a detail, which is the line item, every single account that we have revenue streams from or have expense accounts from. This is what's required by statute to essentially take categorical revenues and categorical expenses and somewhat lump them together into the big departmental types of revenue or expense streams. As we move forward, one of the biggest things I'll comment on in a minute. Sorry. We also have the expense side of things, the budget summary. Again, taking all of our expense category or our expense line items, grouping them into categories, and presenting them in our budget summary notice. Last but not least, a snapshot of where the town currently is and where it has been over the last 2 years for cash, if you want to call it that. We've got a general fund checking account, which is just as simple as it sounds. It's a checking account we pay bills out of. The LGIP stands for Local Government Investment Pool, and it's a high yield savings account. Right now it's at like 4.38% APY. So we've got, started in 23 with not very much. At the end of 24, we had 88. Currently, when we get into the detail portion of the budget, you can see that we're planning on applying approximately $5,000 to 2025's expenses to balance the budget. And then where we anticipate that $84,000 to be at the end of 2026 with interest earned. LGIP Fire was funds that were long ago designated for the fire department when it was a district. There's $3 there. Airport LGIP, both of those accounts are generally managed by the Airport Commission and not the town board. They are part of our annual audit statement, and they're represented here for anybody who's curious. Highlights of the 25 revenues. This is my parlay from my oops 2 minutes ago. Currently, we're requesting $804,334,000 of general property tax. The amount represented in the budgets is inclusive of the $89,500 levy exceedance request. So if that is not approved, the general property tax would obviously be reduced by that amount. Last year's budget, if you look at the detailed line item, we had a revenue line for $20,000 of airport revenue. What that was is the prior year, the state changed the way that real property and personal property were assessed and taxed. It used to be personal property. That personal property tax was collected by the village. Starting at the end of 2024, that property tax bill, because the land that the airport, the land that the hangars sit on is owned by the town of Palmyra. The town of Palmyra received the tax bill even though it is a non-tax jurisdiction. The town sent out invoices to all the individual individual hangar owners, and that revenue stream was represented in our 2025 budget. Next year, it will not be there, primarily because each one of those hangars has since been legally described, and those bills will go directly to the airport, to the hangar owners themselves. Last but not least, revenue highlights. We don't have debt service incoming for 2026 proposed at this point. Last year there was 300 and some change thousand of debt issuance. We anticipated to be a revenue stream for 2025 that we are not taking out additional debt as a revenue stream for 2026. Expenses every year. Expenses match what our overall incoming revenue stream is. So the total expense for the town right now proposed is $1,146,726. Of that total increase, the largest portion of change for this upcoming year is a $125,000 increase in fire and EMS costs. There's also a $5,000 increase versus 2025 for the election expenses. Currently planning on 4 elections, primaries and actual elections. And that we're required by the county to buy a new ballot tabulator. No questions asked, we have to. Changes in public works expenses. We're increasing versus the 2025 budget patching expenses by $10,000 to more accurately reflect past trends of expenses. Again, that category was created for the 2024 budget. It had been lumped in as part of highway and street construction for the town. 2024, we itemized things like patching, mowing, ice and snow, street signs, I think was one of them as well. To counteract the $125,000, what we tried to do was to decrease other expenses. So again, I said that we are not issuing debt service for road projects like we did in 2025. Correspondingly, the expense for that construction is not included in 2026's budget, only that $10,000 culvert replacement on Piper Road. We also decreased tree service by $10,000. There was a decrease versus the budget in 25 of $35,000 for emergency management. And then corresponding to that $20,000 revenue stream for the airport is offset because we're not paying and we're not getting reimbursement for those real property taxes. Additionally, there is an increase in the annual debt service payment of approximately $19,000. Overall decrease of $284,000 proposed for 2026 versus the 2025 budget. The projector looks even more so skewed right now. So what exactly does any of this mean? Right now, this is your 2024 collected in 25 taxes. That means the bill you paid in January, potentially partially in July of this year. That far left column is what you paid representative to a $100,000 increment of property value or per acre, and this is a little skewed because I couldn't fit every per acre till. This amount here is your bill. This amount here is actually going into 2026, the value that the state set for ag land, first till, second till, third till pasture land. This column is sort of to the right, without the levy exceedance, with some of those debt service increases. If you have a $200,000 property, right now, this year you paid $565. Next year with the debt service increase, you would pay $588. If the levy exceedance request is passed, that 588 would go to 662. You can find what kind of matches whatever inventory of property you may or may not own in the town, and make a generalized estimate of what the levy exceedance request of $89,000 really actually is going to mean on your tax bill, again, specific to your town tax bill portion. We have no control over the school, we have no control over WCTC, and we have no control over Jefferson County and what they set for their individual levies or the resulting tax. So again, that sheet is specific to the town's request to exceed the levy limit for next year. Technically this year, collected next year. With that being said, next steps in the budget process. Mr. Martins alluded to this. After I'm done, you folks have the opportunity to make statements regarding the proposed budget, ask questions if you don't understand something that we covered. Once everybody's done, the public hearing will close. Once the public hearing is closed, the special electors meeting will be called to order. We'll need a motion and a second to potentially adopt or deny, I guess, the request for the levy limit increase. Everybody will vote if they want. If you're an elector of the town of Palmyra, let me continue that. Turn in your green ballot. We'll count the green ballot and we'll know whether or not the town board's request to exceed the levy by $89,500 was approved. If it is, we can move forward with step 2. If it's not, we'll also move forward with step 2. On either side of the blue sheet, there's 2 different amounts there. One is $804,000 if the levy exceedance is passed. That would be the resolution to potentially get voted on and approved for the actual town tax levy. If the exceedance is denied, on the back side of that sheet, it's $714,000 and some change, which would be the state's allowable levy limit for the town of Palmyra for 2025 tax to be collected in 2026. Kind of went through this, but to go through it again, and we'll go through it again. A yes vote on the green ballot would be to authorize or endorse the town board's request to exceed the levy limit for next year. A no vote means we go back to the de facto state limit. Ballot number 2, the blue one. A yes vote would adopt a levy. A no vote would reject a levy. I say a levy because depending on the first vote, it could be one or the other. With that, way shorter than the last 2 years. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Josh.
You have yours.
Josh, you have a question.
Shoot. Actually, hang on. Don't shoot. We're going to go with the list of people that signed up first, I think.
I've got a list here.
Oh, you've got a list there.
Sorry, I saw the clipboard, I thought it was,
That clipboard. Wrong clipboard.
oh, and I apologize, should have introduced ourselves at the very start of the meeting, I apologize. I'm Rob Martins, town supervisor. This is Josh Gajewski, supervisor as well, so apologize for not introducing ourselves to start. First on the list, Bonnie Wilson. Please stand, name, address, including community.
Well, I wasn't first on the list, but I just think I came.
You'll have to speak up.
It did.
I just had a question as to how much money has been borrowed this year that will increase taxes next year?
So the proceeds from debt this year are are, if I can shoot that far across the room. $378,902 is what was drawn between the letter of credit and the note that was issued for pulverizing and repaving Tamarack Road.
Do you know what percentage that will raise taxes next year automatically?
So that debt service, principal and interest this year, 2025 again, is $165,549. Next year it goes to approximately 199 and some change.
Anything else on it? Sean Kemmer? Pardon.
Yeah, I mentioned this because I had a question and I wanted to make sure that I could answer the question.
If you could just stand up, state your name, address.
Sean Kemmer, Tamarack Road, PALMYRA. I want to make sure I understood because it's hard to hear Bonnie when she's not facing the rest of the audience. You borrowed $378,000 against a line of credit and some other source. You're paying back $165,000 this year, and you anticipate the same amount, only $195,000 next year.
Correct. These two numbers are debt service payments between principal, 168,978, and interest.
And it's a $600,000 line of credit.
No, well, yes and no. So the
Yes
town,
and
the town authorized a $600,000 line of credit. They have not drawn all of the $600,000 out of that, and they also issued a $105,000 note for pulverizing and repaving Tamarack.
Okay. So there's room on that letter of credit.
Yes.
So whether we adopt this levy or not, you're most likely going to borrow against that letter of that line. No? Does that tell me no?
I'm not gonna tell you yes.
The option, we have the option to draw against it if it's required.
Right.
It does not mean we will draw from it, but we have the option because it is still open, yes.
So the letter of credit that Mr. Kemmer is referring to was a total of $600,000. For anybody who didn't hear the question in the back, there's a $600,000 line of credit that was issued by the town in 2024. The amount that was drawn in 24 was $242,000 out of that 600. We also drew against the remainder of that to do the 8.5 miles worth of chip sealing, crack filling that we did on Young, Tamarack, Parkview Circle, Pine Drive, Zion Road. I'm missing some. Young, I think, maybe I already said that. So the $84,000 is still an active amount that could be borrowed against with interest if it's drawn, rather than potentially funding $89,500, no interest. So that again, pay as we go, issue debt service. Similar to last year, similar to the year before. That's what the town board has requested input from the residents on, is funding necessary services, funding projects. How do you want to pay for it? Or do you want to pay for it at all? So I can't answer yes or no because there's been zero input on that so far.
If we vote on another levy increase, that sticks throughout time unless we vote it down to reduce it, correct?
The $89,500, sorry, the $89,500 requested increase would stick. The overall levy amount will change as the debt service is retired. It will come down.
As opposed to you just go ahead and borrowing the $89,000, if we should all vote no, we incur the interest, the additional interest expense on that, and once it's paid off, it automatically reduces our tax bill. Unless you continue to draw.
Correct.
There's your choice.
Also, keep in mind, costs are gonna continue to rise.
Apparently, just you're doing everything everywhere all at once.
Okay, thank you for Next, Jim Rowland? No? Okay. Penny Leapack?
That would be me. Penny Leapack, Roland Drive, Palmyra. Most of you know me. I live in the town. I literally born and raised in the house that I currently live in. I've also been connected to the police department for over 36 years, and now the police department. So I have a well above average knowledge of why the fire concept has increased. So there's been a complete change in how it was a fire district 15 years ago. The town has been contracting with the village. We don't have volunteers anymore. We have to have paid staff in order to roll an ambulance. So that is the huge reason why the cost for fire and EMS services is being passed on to the town, because the village can't keep supporting more than their percentage of the budget. So I reached out to my homeowners insurance, that if the town were to contract with anybody else, because of the distances of the fire department from the town, my house is 4.5 miles from the range. So there's ISO rating. An ISO rating for them to come to my house, and I'm way closer to the drains than most of the rest of the town. My homeowner's insurance would go up approximately $95 a year. A $200,000 house is a $74 range. I realize that people's houses are more than $200,000. But if I'm having a heart attack or a stroke, I want an ambulance there in 3 to 4 minutes, not 20 minutes. So basically what you're looking at is, do you value your life or not? Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Jean Beck?
I have also lived in Palmyra almost all my life. A year and a day ago, I sent an email to the entire board.
Jean, I apologize. There's some people going like this. They
Yes.
come up to the corner and just face everybody. I thank you. Sorry.
I know that on your time.
It's just hard for everybody to hear, so.
A year and a day ago, I sent an email to the entire town board because I was disgusted with the expenses related to tree service in 2025. It is now 2025, and I'm happy to see that you have significantly reduced your expenses in that way, but I still think it's absurd. What I would also say is that I sent you numerous statutes, citations, and the only response that I really got with regard to any of what I sent was about the road right-of-way. I'm happy, and as a matter of fact, I want to provide this for public record, all the citations that I sent to you for review, because even after all of that, I just got one little reply from Josh Ashby saying that I disagree with my interpretation of the road right-of-way. I want to tell you that everything that I said, I cited. I gave my opinion, but I also cited the exact citations and Wisconsin statutes, and I felt very disregarded by receiving so little information back, because it was a tremendous amount of money in our budget that was spent, and it continues to be. $50,000 is not chump change when you're talking about